He goes, that's what I want to talk to you about. He goes, the money you gave me, I worked really hard, and I got a scholarship. I don't need your money anymore.
Porta potties reduced to steaming piles.
Oh, yeah.
Every day, I share another story from the Golden Age, tracing the moments that shaped an unforgettable era. If you'd like to keep these memories alive with me, feel free to subscribe. It costs nothing, yet it means a great deal. Thank you for being here. Now, let us begin. For more than 3 decades, America admired a man they believed they understood, never realizing he was quietly living in 2 separate worlds. To millions, Jay Leno stood beneath the spotlight as a steady figure on television, polished and composed. But beyond the glow of the studio lights, he moved through a very different landscape, one shaped by gasoline, steel, and warmth, all carefully tucked behind that familiar, easy smile. No one connected the clues until the pieces finally settled into place. Only then did the truth of Jay Leno's 2 worlds reveal itself, showing a life far more layered than most ever imagined. He was born in 1950 in New Rochelle, New York, raised by a hard-working Italian-American father, Angelo Leno, who built his life in insurance, and a thoughtful Scottish mother, Catherine Muir. His older brother, Patrick, served in Vietnam, returned home, and later practiced law. Their family followed a simple code: work hard, stay grounded, and move forward without complaint. After finishing high school, Jay attended Emerson College in Boston, where he majored in speech therapy and graduated in 1972. Yet classrooms and textbooks were never quite enough for him. He transformed his dorm room into the birthplace of the college's very first comedy club, creating a small stage for something much larger that was beginning to grow. During the day, he worked in a nearby garage, and at night, he performed in local bars, shaping a rhythm that would define his early years. That 2-shift life became his foundation. A mechanic by day, a rising comic by night. Boston's comedy scene was alive in the 1970s, and Jay stood right in the middle of it. He once said, "By day, I was covered in grease, by night, surrounded by laughter," a line that captured how naturally his 2 worlds blended together. In 1973, he packed his things and drove to Los Angeles, chasing wider horizons and larger risks. He found work in a Burbank garage to pay his bills and spent every evening performing at the Comedy Store, often earning just enough to get by. Still, his determination never wavered, and he kept holding on to every dollar he could save. After 4 years of steady effort in comedy clubs across the city, Jay finally received the moment every young performer hopes for: an invitation to appear on The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson on March 2, 1977. Through the late 1970s, Jay continued his steady climb. He appeared on smaller television programs, wrote for Good Times, and took roles in shows like Fun with Dick and Jane, One Day at a Time, and Alice. In 1978, he also stepped into film, appearing in American Hot Wax and Silver Bears. Little by little, he was everywhere, shaping a reputation as a comic who spoke with the ease of an everyday working man rather than a distant celebrity. By the 1980s, Jay often filled in for Carson whenever he stepped away, and that calm, dependable presence caught NBC's attention. Producers admired his discipline. He was never late, never unprepared, and never drifting into the distractions that swallowed so many performers in Hollywood. Away from the stage, he stayed centered. Most of his free hours were spent in his modest Burbank garage, restoring old cars piece by piece. For Jay, it was never simply a pastime. It was a ritual, a quiet form of focus. He once said, Fixing a car is like writing a joke. You work on it until it runs. A line that reflected exactly how he approached the world. From 1985 to 1988, he appeared consistently on weekend comedy shows, becoming one of the most familiar faces on television. By 1986, NBC officially named him Carson's substitute host, a decision that signaled Jay was no longer just another guest. He was becoming a central figure. The bright lights of television were finally calling Jay's name, yet behind that moment stood a demanding test where only steady discipline could keep him balanced. When he stepped into the spotlight, he wasn't simply replacing a legend. He was entering a landscape where every choice carried weight. On May 25, 1992, Jay Leno officially took over The Tonight Show, settling into the seat Johnny Carson had shaped for generations. It was NBC's most significant transition, placing Jay at the center of America's late-night world at exactly 11:35 p.m. each evening. Over the next 2 decades, that stage would become the quiet engine of conversational comedy across the country. But the early months were difficult, even unforgiving. Carson's devoted viewers watched Jay with hesitation, and the press showed little mercy. Newspapers called NBC's decision a risky experiment, openly questioning whether he had the presence to guide the show forward. Jay remained silent, choosing not to answer back. Instead, he moved through each taping with patience, letting gentle, relatable humor win people over one evening at a time. He spent nearly all his waking hours inside the studio, often working close to 18 hours a day. Mornings were filled with production meetings, afternoons with script reviews, evenings with tapings, and the late hours with small sets at clubs across Los Angeles. The pace was relentless, and the weight of the responsibility never truly eased. "You have no idea, but we'll fight the good fight, Pop." Those words revealed the weight he carried, a quiet pressure that came with rising success, one he often shouldered alone. By 1995, Jay had secured the top position. The Tonight Show with Jay Leno drew more than 5 million viewers each evening, surpassing The Late Show with David Letterman. NBC reported a significant rise in advertising revenue, climbing more than 30%, placing Jay among the network's strongest anchors. Away from the camera, he never eased his pace. Jay continued touring non-stop, performing nearly 150 shows a year across the country, from small rooms in Las Vegas to large university halls. He once admitted, "If I'm off stage for a few days, I start to miss the smell of the audience." It was a simple truth that spoke to how deeply the craft lived in him. Each trip followed a strict schedule, leaving little room to pause. The late 1990s became the height of his era. The Cheers finale episode in 1993 drew more than 22 million viewers, and the show's 10th anniversary in 2002 brought in nearly 12 million. NBC estimated that weekly profits reached more than $30 million, numbers that placed Jay in a category few ever reached. Inside the studio, he worked with the same determination he brought to his garage. After his mother passed in 1993, he stepped away for only 2 days before returning to the show. Colleagues often said he seemed to have no weakness, while Jay described his routine in the simplest terms. "I work, I sleep, then I work again. That's all."
NBC chose Conan O'Brien as Jay's eventual successor, setting his takeover for 2009. The announcement arrived 8 years in advance, meant to keep the transition steady. Jay accepted it with professionalism, telling reporters that every show needs a next chapter. On May 29, 2009, he hosted what was meant to be his final episode of The Tonight Show after 17 years. He thanked the many people who had supported him along the way and closed the night with a single, sincere line: "This has been the best job in the world." It felt like the closing of a long, familiar era. But only a few months later, NBC introduced The Jay Leno Show, a new primetime series. That decision eventually stirred a conflict with Conan O'Brien, one that soon unfolded publicly. Before the full storm arrived, Jay had already completed 2 decades in television, known as one of the most dedicated workers in entertainment. Even after stepping away from the seat many assumed he would keep forever, he did not slow his rhythm. Instead, he turned toward the garage world he loved, surrounded by engines and metal, ready for a different kind of daily routine. But his story didn't pause there. On March 1, 2010, after months of tension between NBC and Conan O'Brien, Jay returned to The Tonight Show. His comeback brought an end to one of the network's most complicated chapters and quickly lifted the show's momentum once again. After that final broadcast, Jay didn't remain still for long. Within a few months, he introduced Jay Leno's Garage, a 1-hour special that immediately drew attention. The response was so strong that CNBC quickly committed to a full series. Beginning in 2015, Jay Leno's Garage continued through 2022, running for 7 seasons filmed inside Jay's expansive private workspace in Burbank. The show blended relaxed conversations with test drives, mechanical breakdowns, and rare automotive pieces. Guests such as Elon Musk, President Joe Biden, and Jerry Seinfeld all found their way to those doors. Jay often said, "Cars are the only thing that make me quiet. When the engine starts, everything else stops," a line that became a quiet summary of the way he lived. His collection at Big Dog Garage is often described as one of the most remarkable mechanical archives in the world. Jay owns more than 180 cars and 160 motorcycles, with a total value estimated above $50 million. Among the standout pieces are a 1994 McLaren F1 worth more than $20 million, 2 Doble steam cars once owned by Howard Hughes, and a 1909 Baker Electric he once gifted to his wife. He is also the only person known to own 3 fully functioning 1963 Chrysler turbine cars. He writes the Motormouth column for Popular Mechanics, exploring everything from steam restorations to hybrid testing to jet-powered experiments. His style remains simple and clear, built on practical experience and steady explanations that feel grounded rather than showy. Even with that ongoing work, he continues traveling across the United States, performing close to 150 stand-up shows each year. People are often surprised by the pace, but Jay brushes it aside, saying, "I still do the same thing, fix cars by day, perform by night. That's what keeps me sharp." In many ways, his rhythm has barely changed since his earliest years. In his personal life, Jay and his wife Mavis keep things quiet and steady. Married since 1980, they chose not to have children, and Mavis remains deeply involved in human rights efforts through the Feminist Majority Foundation. Jay often says, "She's the one who taught me how to be quiet," a line he offers with sincere affection. Back in 1998, they donated $100,000 to support women in Afghanistan, a contribution still remembered in the foundation's history. The couple rarely speaks about their generosity, yet they give quietly each year to education initiatives and automobile museums. Life shifted suddenly. Just when fame had settled and his routine seemed smoother than ever, unexpected challenges entered Jay's world. A series of incidents and personal trials pushed him off the familiar path he had followed for decades. Yet even then, he returned with the same steady resilience that had carried him through 50 years. In November of 2022, while working on a 1907 white steam car inside his garage, a small malfunction caused a brief but serious scare, leaving Jay with significant injuries to his face, hands, and chest. He was taken to the Grossman Center in West Hills, where he spent 10 days under careful medical supervision, receiving the treatment needed for a stable recovery. Quiet images later appeared in the media, showing a side of Jay the world rarely saw: vulnerable, subdued, and healing. Jay remained mostly silent as he recovered, offering only a short remark in one interview to acknowledge what had happened, a simple line that showed how difficult the moment had been. Doctors later noted that his determination and overall strength played a major role in how quickly he improved. But only 2 months later, in January of 2023, another setback arrived. While riding a vintage motorcycle, an unexpected obstruction in the road caused him to lose balance, resulting in several painful injuries. Even during that time, in the same hospital where he had recently recovered, Jay kept his commitments unchanged. He refused to cancel a single show, telling reporters with his usual calm humor that he had cracked a few parts, but his spirit and his love for making people laugh remained untouched. Jay treated each incident as if it were simply another part of his long familiar routine. By mid-2023, when people asked about the stream of setbacks, he answered with a small shrug, saying, "I grew up in a garage. Accidents are normal." Within 3 weeks, he was already back on stage in Las Vegas, performing for more than 2,000 people, and most in the audience had no idea he had recently undergone major medical treatment. Then early 2024 brought another difficult moment. While filming a car segment in Pennsylvania, Jay slipped down a steep 18-meter slope, leaving him with a sore wrist and a few visible marks. Later, he brushed it off with a simple comment, "Feeling good. As long as I can work, I'm alive." It carried the same dry humor that had followed him throughout his career. Fans worried, yet Jay continued moving forward. Only a week later, he appeared at a vintage car exhibition, his arms still wrapped for protection, smiling as if nothing had changed. A close friend recalled that right after the fall, Jay's first question was, "Is the car okay?" before he even asked for assistance. It was a small reminder of how deeply that world lived within him. But beyond the mechanical risks and constant work, 2024 brought a far more personal challenge. Jay's wife, Mavis Leno, was diagnosed with progressive memory loss, a condition that led the couple, who had always guarded their privacy, to speak openly about their situation for the first time. On April 1, 2024, a Los Angeles court granted Jay full legal guardianship over her medical and financial decisions, giving him the ability to care for her in the way he believed was best. In the filing, he explained that he wanted every choice to be guided by care, steadiness, and respect. After the hearing, Jay told reporters, "What love is to take care of each other when one can't," speaking with a quiet tenderness people rarely heard from him. According to his attorney, Mavis sometimes no longer recognizes him, with doctors noting that her condition now requires consistent support. Still, Jay continued bringing her to select events, believing that familiar places and gentle routines helped her stay centered. By early summer of 2024, he returned to Jay Leno's garage, wearing his leather jacket and his familiar calm grin as he introduced a beautifully restored vintage electric car. Later that year, when asked about the challenging moments he had faced, Jay answered with a soft trace of humor, "I don't think I've had trouble. I just fix cars and sometimes the cars fight back." The line carried the same dry tone he had built a lifetime on. Doctors later confirmed that his body had healed well. His skin strengthened, his bones repaired, and his overall spirit remained steady. After several years when life seemed determined to slow him down, Jay somehow continued moving with that same tireless rhythm. But as 2025 arrived, his story began to shift. It was no longer only about endurance. It became a story of holding on to purpose, even as time quietly introduces its own limits. When the new year came, Jay Leno reached 75. After 2 years marked by recovery and deeply personal challenges, he still kept his familiar routine alive. His tour began in February in Florida and stretched across the country through the end of the year, visiting Connecticut, New Jersey, Nevada, California, and many more places. Nearly 170 shows in total. The room stayed full, filled with people who simply wanted to watch the man who had weathered a series of hardships and continued moving forward.
Jay stepped onto the stage without theatrics, without heavy lighting, without any dramatic entrance, just the same steady presence he'd carried his whole life. Every show in 2025 opened the same way. Jay walked out, adjusted the microphone, and said, "I just finished fixing a car, and it didn't blow up." The audience welcomed it every time. Meanwhile, Jay Leno's garage continued to grow online, releasing new videos exploring electric models and the latest automotive technology. In a test drive segment featuring the Cadillac Celestiq, Jay smiled and said, "I don't buy them all. I just keep the ones that make me happy," delivering the line with his calm, familiar humor. Another episode showed him guiding the Ford GT Hybrid around the Burbank track, explaining its handling, throttle feel, and overall behavior with clear, steady detail. No hype, no promotion, only genuine knowledge from someone who understood machines from the inside out. Beneath the video, tens of thousands of comments shared the same thought. He's not old, he's just continuing. To viewers, Jay seemed almost ageless, still moving, still working, still unmistakably himself. His health surprised many. He followed his long-standing routine with quiet discipline. 4 hours of sleep, early mornings, cold water instead of coffee, no alcohol, no cigarettes, no sugar, nothing that slowed his rhythm. One doctor once joked that he was the only patient he knew who never took a day off. Jay eventually turned that comment into a soft punchline on stage, letting audiences laugh at the pace he still carried into his 70s. By 2025, his personal wealth was estimated at around $450 million, with his well-known car collection making up a portion of that value. Big Dog Garage in Burbank remained his main workshop, home base, and storage space. Most days, he worked there with a close team of mechanics, restoring one classic machine at a time, much like he had done decades earlier. In January of 2025, when large wildfires swept through parts of Los Angeles, Jay didn't stay on the sidelines. He and a small group of friends volunteered, using one of his vintage fire trucks to help deliver supplies to local response crews. It was a quiet gesture, the kind he never advertised. He almost never accepted awards or attended ceremonies, and when reporters asked why, he would answer, "I don't like standing in front of a camera to get a trophy. I like standing in a garage doorway, watching smoke rise from the exhaust." It offered a clear look into who he had always been, a man who valued work and purpose far more than recognition. He said those words before falling quiet for a moment, gathering himself, then easing back into talk of engines and restorations, as if the familiar rhythm of machinery helped steady his heart. That small pause revealed more about him than any long speech ever could. It showed why he continued moving forward day after day. Late in 2025, Jay attended a fundraising event for burn patients in California, one of the rare occasions where he appeared not as an entertainer, but as an honored guest. His remarks were brief, focused entirely on gratitude for the medical teams who had cared for him. "They're the ones who helped me look at my face again and keep smiling," he said with a sincerity that seemed to still the entire room. Even with a demanding schedule, Jay remained close to the world that shaped him. He hosted small gatherings in his garage, sharing techniques for restoring vintage engines and encouraging young people to discover the value of hands-on work. By the final months of the year, his rhythm remained unchanged. Weekends belonged to stand-up stages, early week mornings to filming, and most days to quiet hours beneath bright garage lights, examining the curves and character of old machines. After more than 50 years in the spotlight, Jay Leno continued to follow the same simple blueprint. One part of his life lived on stage, surrounded by laughter and noise. The other lived in the scent of gasoline and the calm of polished steel. And after everything he had faced, those two worlds no longer felt separate. They had blended into one life, steady,
grounded and unmistakably his. If this story touched you, feel free to like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more. See you in the next story.